Hello everyone and welcome to a Thursday stream. Today we're going to be doing a programming challenge, but it's more of like a crash course into a JavaScript library, or rather a Node.js library. We're going to be looking into a framework called Electron.js. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through what Electron.js is. We'll look through a little bit of the framework, the architecture of it, and then we'll be creating a base sort of library that we can then use to create full-fledged applications using this framework. So we're going to be essentially creating a framework upon a framework to make it easier to create other applications. So I'm just going to get started. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is let's look at Electron.js and what it is. So Electron is, like I said, it's a Node.js platform, and it's a framework in JavaScript that uses Chromium to create native cross-platform desktop applications using the web languages HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you might know Visual Studio Code, which we are going to be using coincidentally. This is built using Electron, WhatsApp, the web app, or WhatsApp, the desktop app, Twitch, Slack, and InVision. I have no clue what InVision is, but it sounds pretty cool. What is it actually? Oh, it's a product design. Oh, okay. It's a product design thing. Yeah, so it's makes it really simple to build applications that you can release on Mac, Windows, and Linux all at the same time using commands. So let's go ahead and create an actual app. So I just have I have a directory open right now, and I'm gonna first command is going to be npm init. So we're going to be initializing an npm package, and then we'll be adding the packages to it. So I'm just going to call it Electron Crash version, like that. Description, good. Yeah, okay. So you can just put random values in for that, but the only command that matters is npm init. So npm will initialize a package, and you should see in the directory now that you have a package.json. These other folders, I added them in because there's an image in here, I think. So yeah, there's just a couple of files that I wanted to already have. So package.json, you will see it has a couple of things there, and we'll actually be changing this. Right now, let me just find what the actual thing is. Alright, so let's now install Electron. So I'm going to clear the terminal screen, and then to install Electron, what we're going to do is npm install --save-dev Electron. So we're installing an npm package named Electron. So while that installs, I'm going to talk about the Electron application architecture. So in general, Electron's apps run on two different processes. There's the main process and then the renderer process. The main process is called when Node.js actually starts the application. So it's what is called from index.js or main.js, whatever. And the compiler, it's kind of like your C++ or void init or void int main. I forgot that. Jesus, that's bad. Or public side void main in Java. And what will happen is this main renderer process, or this main process, will spawn a browser window or some other process that is called the renderer process. So for each browser window, there is a renderer process that actually is used to display the HTML and CSS that you give it. And then there's going to be pathways to communicate between them, so you can send alerts, signals, trigger signals, send content to and from, and stuff like that. So we'll be looking at a couple of those methods, and then we'll also be just creating a library that will allow us to do that quickly. So I think, okay, so Electron has been installed, and then I also want to install jQuery, just because we can use that in our project as well. So npm install jQuery, simple as that. And now we can actually look into configuring the actual project itself. So we'll leave the terminal open for now. And then let's start in package.json. So the name is Electron-Crashcourse, version good. Main, so I'm going to create a new folder called main here. And in main, I will create a file called index.js. And this is where everything will start. So in package.json, all we have to change is this main attribute. Just this is the entry point of the application. So we just have to change it to main/index.js. And then for the scripts, we're essentially just gonna just add the script to start the Electron app, which is we'll call it start. And the command is just electron dot. So this command here, electron dot, will find the current the node project in the current directory, and it will run index.js using the Electron framework. So that's that. We see that the jQuery and the Electron packages were both installed successfully, and then we also have the node modules here. Okay, so let's get started. So you can close out of package.json, and let's actually go ahead and start here. Let me just see if I have all my stuff. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I created a file called app.json in the assets/data folder, and in here I want to just add a couple of properties that we can call from the actual application and just get quick names, paths, and stuff like that. So I'm just going to have a dictionary here, and I'll say app.name, and this will point to, let's just call it Electron Crashcourse. And then app.icon is an icon that I put in there. You can just use any image. And that is assets/cgi-bin/icon.png. And then finally, app.entry will be renderer/html/index.html. So this is another file that I created, and that's essentially going to be the entry point of our application. So the first HTML file that Electron will actually display. And from there, it will run like a regular web page. It will get the required style files from index.html. It will style it accordingly, and you keep going from there. All right. So you might be thinking, or you might be wondering why I'm actually putting this in a separate JSON file. Well, it's pretty simple, but I also wanted to try this out because if you look in not there. If you look in the actual Minecraft jar file, so the versions of Minecraft, and if you, I'm just going to copy and paste this jar file to my downloads, or into here, or no, into here. I'm going to paste it in there, and if I unzip it, which you can with WinRAR, I'm going to extract it. What you will find is that each language has its own JSON file, and that is configured for, each. So let me just find it here. If you go into assets, is it? No, I need to find it. Is it data? No. That's already here. Let me just en-us. There we go. All right. Yeah. So you'll see that each property has a language.name, and the game will load up this certain language, and then it will find this file with the certain text in that language, and then it will just say, oh, app data act language.name, and it will display the text in that language there. So that's what I was kind of, I remembered I saw this somewhere and I wanted to try it out. So this is me trying it out in an Electron app, and it's pretty cool because JavaScript has built-in support for JSON, which is, I mean, it is JavaScript object notation, so does make sense. So let's get started with the actual app. I've done my fair share of just doing nothing so far. So in index.js, we'll keep app.json open to the side here. So in index.js, we're going to do a couple things. So the first thing is going to be requiring Electron. So we're going to say const app browser window. So what the curly braces do is it imports the browser window and the app. Those are the only two from the require Electron module. So we're calling this require Electron gets the Electron module, and then we're taking the two elements, the browser and the app, from the Electron module. And then I want to get the data too. So you can just say require this file, and that will allow you to get the data, which is pretty cool, from the JSON file, and it puts it into JSON automatically. So we're going to say const app data is equal to require, and then the path to the app.json file relative to this file. So /assets/data/app.json, and then we're going to set the name of the app. So we'll say app.name is equal to app data at app.name. So just like that. And then we're also going to work with the global variables here, just so we don't have to reread the file every time. So I'm just going to say global.appdata is equal to app data. So I'm just setting the app data to the global.appdata, and we will be able to get this global variable in both processes, so the renderer and the main process at the same time. Okay, so now we're going to actually go ahead and create the window. So we're just going to say let win. So let win just means let for declaring a variable, and then win will be the name of our variable. And we're going to have a function. So function create window. And in here, we're going to set the window variable, and then we're going to load files and do a couple of other things to the window once the app is ready to actually start. So we're going to say win is equal to new browser window, and then for a couple of arguments here, we're going to pass the arguments in dictionary form. So we're going to say the width is 1200, the height is 800. You could get the screen width and height from the rectangle class module, I think. I forget what it is, but you can do it from one of them, and that will actually allow you to make it full screen. So width and height, and then web preferences. So these web preferences will just allow because HTML, Chromium, the Google Chrome browser runs on Chromium, and you need certain permissions from the thing. So this is kind of like that. But so when we're saying web preferences, we're just giving permissions to the application. So we just want to say node integration true, and enable remote module true. And then we're going to set two things that we know. So the icon is appdata at app.icon. So this is something taken straight from the app data file. And then title is appdata at app.name. And you'll see that in Visual Studio Code, it actually recognizes some of these tags here, and it will give it to you, which is pretty cool. So there's these add-ons. I forget which add-on it is. It might be the JavaScript one, but it makes it really easy to develop with data here. Okay, so that is the creating the window variable, or constructing the window. And now we're going to load the main file. So load main file. Now to do that, you just want to say win.load file, and we're going to say appdata at app.entry, where entry is the variable that we used for the entry file. And then we also want to open the dev tools just so we can debug relatively quickly. So we're going to say win.webcontents.open dev tools. That's just a function that you get from the web contents. And the win variable calls the web content, so it calls the Chromium engine inside the window, and it opens up the dev tools. So that's just like me doing on Google Chrome Control-Shift-C to get the web contents here, and this is exactly what it looks like. It looks exactly like this. So there, and then we want to set there's going to be a couple of callbacks for the window variable and the app variable as well, and we're just going to do the one for the window. So win dot on closed, and then we just want to dereference the object. So just to do that, dereference object, we're just going to say win is equal to null. So you might want to have this if you have multiple windows or something, just which ones are active and which ones aren't, just if you want to keep track of them. Okay, now for the app callbacks, we're just going to start with the simplest one. So for the starting the app, we're going to say app.onReady, and we're just going to create the window. So when the app is ready, go ahead and create the window, and it will display it. And then there's a couple of other Mac commands callbacks that I'll explain a little. So first one is app.onWindow all closed. On Mac, you know that if you press the X button on a computer on a window, it doesn't actually close out the app. So we're just going to say, if all the windows are closed, we're going to quit the app if it's not Mac. So to do that, we're just going to say a empty function or empty parameters going to the body, which is just going to be if process.platform. This is just getting a variable. Does not equal Darwin. So Darwin is Mac, I believe. App.quit. So if it's not Mac, just quit the application entirely. Otherwise, it'll stay active, and you can know that by in some apps that actually works, like with Discord, I believe, doesn't close automatically unless you tell it to. But yeah. And the second one is going to be app.onActivate. So this is when this is also Mac specific. And it's like if the app is closed out and there are no windows present and you just want to create it, like if you close out of the window, the app isn't going to quit. So it's still going to be active, but when you click on the icon again, it won't say app is ready. It will call app.activate. So we just want to say create window if the window is null. So here we're just going to say if win is equal to null, create window. Just like that. Okay, so those are the Mac specific commands, and now we can actually I believe we can. Yeah, all right, so let's just go into our index.html file or wherever your app.entry is. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a hello world to it. Or, we actually have to create an entire, because it's HTML, so we have to create an entire HTML file here. So for the title, I'll just say Electron Crash Course. And in the body, I'll just say H1 Hello World. And there's actually a couple things that I think we have to have for Electron specifically. Let me actually just get I believe it's somewhere. Here, Electron get started. There's a line that's specific to this. Is this? Yeah, here it is. So we can actually just copy. I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. I'll put this link in the description here. Let me just do that right now, actually. js.org/docs/tutorial. All right. Getting started has initial HTML code. Just like that. And then the description should be updated right now. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to copy and paste this into there. It just has an extra meta line, just to be meta. And then I'll change the title once again to Electron Crash. Okay, so now to run it, actually, we're just going to use that command that we configured in package.json, and that's going to be electron or npm start. You see there, and then it has all the stuff that was in the HTML file. So, and you might be seeing the icon that we set is down there, and it's also in the window itself. And what you'll also notice is that this title, if you don't put anything in the title, it resorts to the title that you set in index.js here. But if you set the title in the index file here, it will change it. So if we deleted that line and then reloaded the app, which you can, it'll just give you the file. But so that app.title is actually just for the icon down here, but you have to set the title. And what you might also be wondering is, how did I reload that? Well, if you change something in the renderer process, you can just click or hit Control-R and it will reload the app. But if you change something in the main process, you have to actually restart or rerun the command. You can't just reload the app. So let's X out of this, and then so let's get started with the actual some of the other stuff. So we're gonna work in the main process first, and you'll see what the differences are very quickly. Yeah, so we'll start in the main process. Let me find. Alright, so main.js. Okay, so we're going to go into in the main folder, I'm going to create a file called main.js. And in here, I'm going to include a couple things. So I'm going to say const, and then we're going to include the app, the browser window, and IPC main is equal to require Electron. So app and browser window we've already seen. Now IPC is an interprocess call. That's what it stands for. So interprocess call from the main side. So we are going to be calling stuff and sending it between the processes. So the interprocess from the main. And then so we're going to have a section for signals, and then a section for export, so where we export the functions that we want to give to other files, exports. So let's start with the signals. So we're going to have a function to send alert to the front end. So all that is just function send alert, and we'll just pass in an alert. And to do that, all you have to say is browser window dot get focused window dot web contents dot send, and then we're just gonna send the alert. So we're getting the current window and we're just sending an alert to that window. Next, there's a send data to the front end. So there's two ways. There's two possibilities here. So we can say function send data with an alert and the data. And that's going to be browser window dot get focused window dot web contents dot send, and you can just pass in two variables here. So alert and data, just like that. All right, and then the final thing will be just to set a response to an event. So set response to event, and so we're going to say function set response. The trigger will be a string, and the response will be a callback function. So it's going to be IPC main. So we're getting into the IPC, the interprocess call, and we're going to say dot on the trigger, and we're going to say response. So whenever IPC main gets a trigger, so whenever it gets, say, app ready, get this call of response. Now for exports, we're just going to export all three. So to export in the node.js thing, you just want to say module.exports is equal to, and then we're going to put our function, so send alert, send data, and set response. So now if we call require on main.js from another file, it's going to get send alert, send data, and send response. All right. All right, next we're going to go into the renderer process. So the main process is pretty simple, although it will get a lot more complex if you have networking. Like I created an application over this last summer, so 2019 summer, and I actually put a demo for it on my channel, and it's built on Electron, and it has a networking, and that kind of it's kind of complex. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I'm gonna stroke my own cock here, but it's complex. There's a lot of, the main process goes pretty deep, but yeah, go ahead. And there's also, like, I mean, think about it, every other example has networking, and so those main processes would also be pretty big. And the reason why they're going to be larger is because you can't use npm packages, or at least no, disregard that, but I'm just pulling shit out of my ass. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's the main process. Now let's look into the renderer process. So on the right side of my window, I'm going to create a file in the renderer, and I'm going to call it renderer.js. And then in the HTML file, in renderer/HTML, I'm going to create a file called routes.json. So this is going to be where we're going to store our routes, because I'm thinking of creating like a routed kind of application, and we'll use jQuery to load in those files. So the only thing I want to have right now is just a/home goes to home.html, and we'll create that file. So I just want to get this out of the way, just that singular entry in there, just so you know what it looks like. It's just a route, and then it points to a file. All right, just like that. Okay, now in renderer.js, this is going to be a little more complex. So I first want to include jQuery. So const jQuery is equal to require jQuery. We're going to say const IPC renderer. So the renderer interprocess call module, and remote. So remote is another thing that will allow us to access the browser window from the renderer side. It's kind of like remoting into the main process. So it's equal to require Electron. And then I want to, that's it for now. We're also going to say get the app data, the global variable that we set. So in index.js, we set global.appdata. Now to get that global variable, so get global app data, we're going to say const app data is equal to remote.get global app data. So we're getting the global variable called app data, which we set right here. So those two match up there. And then I also want to get the route, so we're going to include that the same way we did the app data. So we're going to say const routes is equal to require, and then ./HTML/routes.json, just like that. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we are going to go for the signals once again. So we're going to start with signals. And then we'll also have routing and then export. So signals, routing, and then exports. All right, just like that. So in signals, it's going to be pretty much the same, just a couple of extra methods. So we're going to have a send alert to backend. So function send alert alert, and it's going to be IPC renderer.send alert. Now the reason why you can't just say IPC main.send in main.js is we don't know what window is actually there. So you want to send it to the web contents. You can't just send it to the entire IPC renderer, because IPC renderer is different for each browser window. So you might have multiple renderer processes in that are spawned. So you're just going to want to send it to the focused window, because each window is kind of associated with a separate IP renderer process. And then we'll have the same thing, so send data to backend. So function send data, that's going to be message alert and data. So we're going to say IPC renderer.send alert and data. We're going to have the trigger, so set response to an event, so set response to event. So function set response, pretty much the same thing, except using the IPC renderer this time. So trigger and response. So we're going to say IPC renderer.on trigger response. So once again, the trigger will be a string, and we'll actually be setting these in app.json to make them easier to kind of identify. And if we change it one place, it will change it in all locations. Now there's also a way that you can trigger a front end alert. So we're going to be remoting into the main process, and then we're going to be sending an alert back to ourselves. So it's like you're sending an email to yourself to kind of remind yourself to do something if you don't have access to the function. So let's say you have there's a specific function in index.html and you can't access that from a JavaScript file, but you know that function is attached to some trigger. Well, you can just call that trigger and it will trigger that function there. So the way to do that is, so trigger front end event. So we're going to say function trigger event, and we're going to remote.browser window dot get focus window dot web contents dot send alert. So it's the exact same thing as over here, as in the main process, but you're just remoting into it. And then we'll have the same trigger with data. So I'll just put this here. So I'm going to call this trigger with data. Oops. And then we just have to remote in once again. Okay, so last thing I want to do before we get into the exports, or let's do the other stuff first. So let's do the routing. So for the routing, it's going to be as simple as loading an HTML page. It's going to be just one function. So we're going to say function go to, and we're going to pass in a route. So I had a little algorithm here, and I'll just write it out now. So let path if type of route is equal to a string. So if it's already a string, just route passed in as string, and that's going to be path is equal to route. Else the route was passed in as a dictionary. And so if you pass it in as a dictionary, well, then you can send in arguments. So we're just going to say path is equal to route dot route. So there's going to be a specific naming convention there, and it's going to be route. Now we're going to say if object dot keys routes dot includes, or I misspelled that, dot keys of route dot includes path. So if it does, we want to send a success back, and then we also we'll do that after. But so we're just going to say path contained in dictionary. So we're going to say jQuery, and I forgot to put this in index.html, but what my plan was just to create a main element in there, and then you kind of load in each page here. So it's going to be like a single page application, but you just load in different HTML content when you want to. So you don't have to have all these different renderer processes. You can just have one, include it once, and it also makes it a little easier to kind of go between pages and keep everything in the same spot. So we're going to say jQuery dot main. So this function just gets the main element. It's a CSS selector string, and then we're going to say dot load. So we're loading in from a file, and it's just going to be routes at path. Yeah, so we're getting the route, so the path of the route, and then we're going to get the file that is pointed to that in routes.json. So if we pass in /home, we'll get home.html. All right. Now we want to process arguments. So we're first going to say if type of route does not equal string, and object.keys of route.includes args. So we're going to pass in arguments via an args key. So I'll type in how that looks in a second. So we're just going to say trigger with data, and now I'm going to call something a process variable, or a variable that will set an app.json, and then we're just going to pass in the route.args. So that'll be a separate dictionary. Now the actual trigger for that, and we'll set it in app.json. Let me just find it. What is it? All right. So it's going to be events.render.page.init, and we'll just point that to page init. Yeah. I mean, this is honestly, these, you know what, these are kind of inefficient, I'll say that. You know what, this is actually very inefficient. I don't know what I'm doing there. You don't need to do that. But for the trigger, we'll just say events.render.page.init. I don't know why I wanted to make that complicated, because this app.json should only be for the app properties, not the actual inner workings of our library here. And then we'll just return true if the path was in the routes dictionary, and else return false. All right. Now to actually handle this, so the way this will be called from the main process. So from the main process will be a listener. So we'll listener for main process signal, and the way that's going to be a set response app or events.renderer.route.request. So that's just going to be another thing, and then this will take in an event and a route, and that's a lambda function, points to there. And in here we just want to say send data go to route, and if that was true, so if this function that it called was true, so if it found the route, we're going to return events.renderer.route.success. Otherwise, we'll say events.renderer.route.failure, and then we'll pass in the route as the data in the end. So you might want to get like a request ID, you could have that in there, but we'll just pass it back. or send it back rather, so you know what it is. Okay, now for the, I'm just gonna put this, or here, I'll just put this here, runtime. So for the runtime, I'm just gonna say send alert events.renderer.ready. So this will just tell the main process that the renderer has loaded everything, and it's set the routes and all that good stuff. Now for the exports, we're just going to be exporting the function. So module.exports is equal to, so we're going to export app data, send alert, send data, set response, trigger, and trigger with data. And then we also want to have goto in there. So goto will be in there. All right, so that's our renderer process. Pretty fun, I know. Now on the other hand, so to respond to this events.renderer.ready, what we're going to say is in main.j or in index.js. So go back into index.js and we're going to say set this response. So main process, oh, I actually have to include the main. So on the top of index.js, we're going to import the module. So const main process is equal to require /main. And then at the bottom, we're going to say main process dot set response events dot renderer dot ready, and we're going to have an empty lambda function that points to, there's something here. We're going to say main process dot send data, and we're going to send our route data. So events.renderer.route.request, and in here we're just going to have the data as route is app data at app dot initial route, which we have to set. So initial route will be set in app.json, and we're going to set it to /home because that's the only one we put in routes.json. So app.initial route points to a /home. And then for the arguments, we're going to say args is going to be a dictionary, and the text will be this is the test. And to make sure that I know it's mine, from the main boys. There we go. So text is an argument that is passing in with the route. Now let's actually go ahead and define or create this home.html. So in the HTML file, I'm going to create a new file called home.html. Now in home.html, we're just going to have a header to say that it's actually the home page. And then I'm going to have a paragraph where with an ID is equal to text, and this is where jQuery will insert the argument. And so I'm actually going to include a script file here. So new file script or home.js, and it'll include that script file in the home.html file. So script source is equal to home.js, and just like that. Make sure the tag looks exactly like this, otherwise it won't work. Now in home.js, we're going to include a couple things. So we're going to say const, and we want to take the app data and set response from or is equal to require the /renderer module. So we're taking just the app data and the set response function. And then we also want to get jQuery. So const jQuery is equal to require jQuery. Okay, so what are we going to do in this file? So if you remember in renderer.js, when we say go to, we trigger an event with the arguments, and that's events.renderer.page.init. So we want to create a response to this. So we're going to say set response events.renderer.page.init. And then for the response, we're going to get an event and a data once again. And I'm just going to say jQuery. And we're going to get the element, so hashtag text for the paragraph element. Dot text is equal to data at text. Oh, just like that. So now let's go ahead and run this and see if it works. I hope it does. So once again, the command npm start. Okay, something didn't work. Okay. So I'm gonna put a console.log to see what actually happens here. So I'm gonna see if the route is actually printed. No. Okay, so it's not calling it properly. Let me just see here, console.log route. And I'm going to actually be able just to reload because I changed something in the renderer process. So I'm gonna go ahead and reload. All right, so it doesn't seem to be getting that. Now let me see here, console.log ready. Now I changed something in the main process, so we have to exit out of the app and rerun it. And what you will notice is that if I say console.log in the main process, it will output it in the console here. Oh, okay, so it's not actually events.renderer.ready. Did I not define this stuff properly? Or did I just misspell something? Events.renderer.ready. Yeah, there. Let me just check my reference. So set response, trigger response IPC main.on. Yeah, that's right. Now for the renderer, send alert. Yeah. What is going on? Okay, so I mean, it's getting all this stuff here, which is good, but it's not getting this. Oh, I know why, because I didn't include it in the index. I didn't actually get this. Okay, that's right. What happened is I never actually required the renderer file to this renderer script to be included. So in the index.html file, we just have to have a script tag here, and then just say const renderer is equal to require /renderer.js, or you can actually just make that a // there. And now it should run. There we go. All right, so we get the route. This is the test. Okay, but something isn't. All right, I don't think it's /home. That's right, and it gets the arguments properly. So now this is something else. So once again, I'm just reloading, or I actually just closed on the app. Not found, okay. All right, route is /home, so do I need to print out the routes.json thing? See if that's the problem. /home. I'm hoping I didn't forget anything. /home, yeah. What the fuck? Object. Oh, I said the route. Okay, so make sure that is object.keys and you pass in a route. So you want to get the keys from the routes dictionary, not the route. Now everything should be all good. Just reload. Okay, so that's fine. So we get the page though. We get the home page. That's good. So it just said that args is not a thing, which is args is not defined. God damn it. Alright. Yeah, args is defined. Oh, args, yeah, when I said, so make sure that when you're checking to see if the arguments were actually included, make sure that you say args as a string and includes. That's the problem. All right, so now you reload. All right, so now you get the text from the arguments, and that all works perfectly. All right, nice. So let me delete that print statement. All right, so that was actually a very quick one, but it does make things a lot easier. So I mean, we can do a little bit of exploration here. What can we do? Let's do some styling. So in renderer, let's create a new folder called assets, and I'll create a style sheet, or assets/styles, and then I'll have a main.css. So over here, I'll just make everything red. Oh. Color is red. All right, and then in index.html, we just have to include it like a normal style sheet. So, oh fuck, what is it? Link href is equal to /assets/styles /main.css. Rel is equal to style sheet, and type is equal to text/CSS. All right, save that, and if we reload, everything becomes red. So, God, this was actually under an hour. It's been a while since I've had an under an hour stream. But this stuff is pretty simple, I would say. I mean, I guess the biggest thing to wrap your mind around would be the architecture and how it kind of works, but it's not too bad. Like Electron app architecture. Yeah, so you can see that there's the main process there, and you can communicate between the renderer processes, and you can communicate between the renderer process and the main process using IPC. I mean, yeah, this is pretty much it. If you just look up Electron app architecture, you'll just find a lot of these diagrams here. So, yeah. So, I mean, if you want to do a little bit more exploration, it gave me ready. Oh yeah, because it printed that out. And you see that print came from the main process, so it actually goes into the console. Now let's try something else. If I delete that, save it, and then reload, what should happen is it should print it again, and it does, because I changed something in the renderer, in the main process. So if I exit out of that window and then reload, it doesn't actually give us ready, because we've just completely we reloaded the app files, but the renderer you can change. You can change and just reload it. So once again, these are the dev tools. You can just, it's like Google Chrome. It's from Chromium. Now, just the reason why I wanted to do this was because I have a project idea. If you remember, in December, no one will remember that, but in December I was trying to create a mobile app, a password vault in React Native, and the reason why I just completely scrapped the idea was because I didn't know that you couldn't create a web server from there, and my idea was to like create a web server from the app and then send data from the app to like a computer. But now I realized it would be a lot easier to go the other way around and store the data on a computer and then kind of send the data to a phone, either via a web server, but that would require permission, so more likely through a QR code where the content is encrypted on the QR code. So that's kind of what I was thinking, and the reason why I wanted to do this. So yeah, apart from that though, Electron's pretty fun. I like it. It's pretty cool, because you can do stuff in HTML, which makes it really easy to style, add scripts, really short scripts, and it uses Chromium, which is also very nice. So yeah, anyway, on Tuesday I might do OpenGL, probably not. I'll probably do my next programming challenge, which is a bee tree, not a peach tree, a bee tree. And then yeah, so until then, I will see you guys until then.